Here are the top stories for today, March 29, 2021. The Department of Trade and Industry assures there is enough food supply amid the implementation of ECQ in NCR+. Only APORs are allowed. The Philippine National Police puts up more checkpoints in Metro Manila. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana assures that the government is ready to defend the country's sovereignty and marine resources. And IP kids who were forcibly taken by the communist terror group reunite with their families after being rescued by the government. Good day, I am William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. The Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, assures enough food supply amid the implementation of enhanced community quarantine in areas under the NCR+. DTI Undersecretary Ireneo Bismonte says among essential industries that will remain open at 100% capacity are pharmaceutical firms as well as those manufacturing medical supplies, hygiene products, and vitamins. Also allowed to operate in full are agricultural sector, forestry, fish and logistics service providers like delivery services, courier, cargo handling, warehousing, trucking, port operations, and shipping lines. Bismonte said that there is no reason for the public to resort to panic buying as supermarkets, pharmacies, and other essential businesses will also remain open despite the closure of malls. More quarantine control points are established in several areas in Metro Manila. This as the Philippine National Police strictly implements health and travel protocols in the areas placed under the enhanced community quarantine until April 4. Under ECQ, only authorized persons outside of residence or APORs are allowed to go out. The 8 new checkpoints are situated at Susana Heights Tollgate, Alabang Tollgate, Philinvest Tollgate, Sucat Tollgate, Bikutan Tollgate, Skyway Entry, Nichols Tollgate, and Balon Bato, Balintawak, Quezon City. Meanwhile, Budget and Management Secretary Wendell Avisado assures the availability of cash assistance for qualified beneficiaries affected by the Enhanced Community Quarantine or ECQ. Avisado says around 22.9 million beneficiaries from Metro Manila, Cavite, Laguna, Bulacan, and Rizal will be receiving the assistance immediately after the signing of President Duterte. NCR Plus is currently placed under ECQ from March 29 to April 4.
Based on the data provided to us by NEDA, the ones that are going to benefit from this financial assistance would be about 22.9 million targeted beneficiaries. So,
COVID-19 inoculation for senior citizens and those with comorbidities have started. They are the second in line after the frontline health workers. In Manila, some senior citizens have already been inoculated with AstraZeneca vaccine led by Vice Mayor Hani Lacuna Pangan. Among those who received the jabs is a senior citizen with comorbidity in Barangay 37. The government is ramping up on its vaccination drive with the arrival of 1 million doses of Sinovac today. Aside from Sinovac, the country is expecting the arrival of more COVID-19 vaccines in the next few months. These are AstraZeneca, Moderna, and Novavax. Meanwhile, the 5 million doses from Johnson & Johnson is still being finalized. The Philippine National Police is urging non-authorized persons outside of residence to just stay at home during the duration of ECQ. Lieutenant General Cesar Hawthorne Binag of the Joint Task Force COVID Shield said almost 8,000 cops have been deployed in various checkpoint areas in Bulacan and 498 policemen in 15 quarantine control points in Cavite, Laguna, and Rizal. The deployed cops will undergo COVID-19 testing and isolation after their week-long duties. BINAC said there is no need for travel passes as identification cards or certificates to prove employment status will suffice when passing through checkpoints. Meanwhile, Lieutenant General Guillermo Eleazar said that based on the order of PNP Chief General Lorenzana, police commanders and NCR Plus must ensure that their personnel are well protected and aware of PCQ rules, especially in proper decorum and observance of maximum tolerance. The new paperless app S-Pass or Safe, Swift, and Smart Passage offers a convenient and safe way to process travel authority online for local travelers. The app, launched by the Department of Science and Technology, can access the traveler's information, including their travel history. PNP Chief General Lorenzana said he welcomes the development of this local mobility feature for the issuance of Travel Pass-Through Permit or TTP and Travel Coordination Permit or PCP, travel authorities, and QR codes. He also said it provides convenience for travelers. He said police deployment will still continue along with the use of the app to ensure strict public adherence to the implementation of minimum public health and safety protocols. Overseas Filipino workers are required to have RT-PCR test and undergo quarantine upon returning to the country. OWA Administrator Hans Leo Kakdak said there are instances of people who contract the virus despite getting vaccinated.
Wala na pong swab testing sa airport upon arrival. Ang swab testing is done on the 6th day of hotel quarantine. And after the negative PCR and the OFW is transported to home region na po by bus o chartered bus kung taga Luzon o chartered plane kung taga Visayas at Mindanao. So ang suma total po niyan, dati 1 to 3 days ang nilalagi ng OFWs natin in the hotel quarantine facilities.
More local government units in the province canceled their annual Lenten activities and instead urged their constituents to just reflect at the comfort of their homes. The details from Marita Muahe.
In San Fernando, Pampanga, the city government canceled for the second consecutive year its MALELDO or Reenactment of Passion of Christ activities. It is a Lenten tradition highlighted by self-flagellation and actual nailing on the cross of devotees. Mayor Edwin Santiago has issued an executive order in compliance with the order of Governor Dennis Pineda, canceling activities that would promote mass gatherings. Reverend Father Marius Roque of the Metropolitan Cathedral supported the move and asked the faithful to participate in online masses instead. In Bulacan, residents are urged to cooperate and comply with health protocols to help curb the spread of COVID-19. Governor Daniel Fernando said the week-long ECQ will hopefully arrest the spike in COVID-19 cases, which can be attributed to outside activities and new variants.
Magtulong-tulong po tayo. Wag na nating hayaan pang ma-extend ang ECQ. Well, ako po, ayoko na pong ma-extend ito sapagkat alam kong hirap na ang lahat. Magtulong-tulong po tayo. Alam ko po na ang lahat ay naghahangad ng magandang buhay. Manalangin po tayo sa ating mahal na Panginoon. Dagdagan pa po natin ang pagdarasal.
In Tarlac, parishes and residents are prohibited from staging activities usually being observed during the Holy Week. Among these are the conduct of pabasa or reading of the Passion, putting up of Calvary and booth in the barangay level, the traditional procession on Palm Sunday, Good Friday and Easter Sunday, the Stations of the Cross outside the church, and visiting of churches or Visita Iglesia during the evening of Holy Thursday. And in Iloilo, Governor Arthur Defensor Jr. is urging Ilonggos to just stay home and reflect in observance of the Holy Week. He also reminds them to follow the minimum health protocols when they go out. Iloilo is under the modified general community quarantine, which means tourist destinations can still accommodate travelers at 50% capacity. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
Still to come, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana assures that the government is ready to defend the country's sovereignty and marine resources. And the House of Representatives approves Freelance Workers Protection Act on third reading. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Tandaan ang tamang paraan ng paghuhugas at paglilinis ng kamay upang makaiwas sa iba't ibang karamdaman. Basain ng tubig ang mga kamay at sabunin. Unang sabunin ang mga palad at ang likod ng mga kamay. Kuskusin na maigi ang pagitan ng mga daliri at maging ang mga kuko. Isunod ang pagitan ng mga hinlalaki at kuskusin ng paikot ang mga dulo ng mga daliri sa magkabilang palad. Banlawang mabuti ang mga kamay sa malinis na tubig at patuyuin ang mga kamay gamit ang single-use towel o air dryer. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Pangalagaan ang sarili laban sa Coronavirus Disease 2019. Hanggat maaari, umiwas sa mataong lugar. Iwasang hawakan ang ilong at bibig, maging malinis sa katawan at ugaliin ang wastong paghuhugas ng kamay. Takpan ang ilong at bibig kung uubo o babahing. Umiwas sa mga taong nagpapakita ng sintomas ng coronavirus disease gaya ng lagnat, ubo at sipon. Magsuot ng face mask kung kinakailangan. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana assured the public that the government is ready to defend the sovereignty and to protect the marine resources of the country. Lorenzana said there will be an increased presence of the Philippine Navy and Philippine Coast Guard ships to conduct sovereignty patrols and protect our fishermen in the West Philippine Sea. He also reiterated the country's call for the immediate withdrawal of Chinese vessels in the Julian Felipe Reef. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque earlier said that Chinese ambassador to the Philippines Wang Xilian has paid a social call on President Rodrigo Duterte and assured that the Philippines need not worry over the presence of Chinese vessels in the Julian Felipe Reef. Wang said the spotted Chinese boats were merely taking shelter due to rough sea conditions. The United States will remain as the Philippines' only rational military ally. This is highlighted by Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. during his virtual meeting with the U.S.-Philippine Society Board of Directors. Locsin acknowledging that the U.S. remains one of the country's strongest and most extensive trading partners. Meanwhile, Locsin also raised deep concern on the rise in attacks on Asian Americans, including Filipino Americans in various parts of the United States. The House of Representatives has approved on third reading House Bill number 8817, or the proposed Freelance Workers Protection Act. The bill seeks to introduce provisions for the protection of freelancers, including those making written contracts mandatory, stipulating tax relief, and providing night shift differential and hazard pay. The bill also provides for certain tax provisions that encourage freelancers to register with the Bureau of Internal Revenue. Complaints about any violation of its provisions may be filed with the Department of Labor and Employment. Pangasinan 4th District Representative Christopher De Venecia, one of the principal authors, cited the need to protect freelancers who comprise around 2% of our population, the biggest figure per capita in the world. President Rodrigo Duterte has proposed an increase in the volume of imported pork products to 350,000 metric tons. Malacanang said this is in addition to the minimum access volume of 54,210 metric tons for the year 2021. Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque said this was meant to address rising food prices and boost pork supply in the country. The apparent shortage of pork supply prompted Duterte in February to approve the Department of Agriculture's proposal to review the suggested increase in the country's pork imports. The president's proposed hike in pork imports will be relayed to Congress for its consideration. On February 1, Duterte inked Executive Order 124, which implements a price cap of 270 pesos per kilo for pork kasim and pige, 300 pesos for pork liempo, and 160 pesos for dressed chicken until April 8. For its part, the DA defended the imposition of the price ceiling, saying it was effective in pulling down high retail prices that were manipulated by traders who take advantage of consumers. Prices for pork and pork products were highest during the Christmas holiday in 2020. Agriculture Assistant Secretary Noel Reyes shared that while the DA works on controlling the retail prices, it also tapped its regional offices to send surplus meat products to the National Capital Region. As of Thursday, the DA has already transported 220,000 live hogs to areas in Luzon with high or unmet market demands. And moving on to business, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Benjamin Diokno insists that the Philippines remains a good investment destination despite the impact of the pandemic. In his speech during the virtual second Philippine-Singapore Business and Investment Summit on Friday, Diokno highlighted the Philippine economy's improved fundamentals. He reiterated that the economy entered the pandemic in a position of strength, and the central bank has implemented several measures such as liquidity boost, a reduction in key policy rates to lessen the pandemic's impact. For this year, Diokno said the economy is expected to recover and post a growth of 6.5% to 7.5%. It will also register improvements in imports and exports, remittances, and foreign direct investments. Diokno also cited reform measures such as the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act or CREATE, which will reduce corporate income tax from 30% to 20% and rationalize fiscal incentives. Up next, IP kids who were forcibly taken by the communist terrorist group reunite with their families after being rescued by the government. And President Rodrigo Duterte receives warm greetings from netizens. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Sa matinding laban natin sa Coronavirus Disease 2019, sugpuin din natin ang pagkalat ng fake news. Huwag magbahagi ng impormasyon na hindi tiyak ang pinagmulan. I-check mabuti ang source ng balita. Kumuha lamang ng impormasyon mula sa mga official channel ng Department of Health. Huwag magpadala sa maling balita, basta't sama-sama at laging handa. Kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito. Alamin ang mga dapat gawin sa lugar ng trabaho laban sa Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ang mga kumpanya ay dapat magbigay ng face mask sa kanilang mga empleyado. Bukod dito, magbigay kaalaman din patungkol sa COVID-19. Siguraduhing malinis ang kapaligiran. Maglagay ng sabon at hand sanitizer sa mga palikuran. Siguraduhing ligtas at nalutong maigi ang mga pagkain sa kantina. Obserbahan ang kalusugan ng mga empleyado at katrabaho. Kung sakali man na mayroon silang sintomas ng coronavirus disease, gaya ng lagnat, ubot-sipon at hirap sa paghinga, ay agad ipasuri sa doktor. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to. Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. Anti-communist groups on Saturday renewed their call to the Dutch government to send home Communist Party of the Philippines founder Jose Maria Joma Sison and terminate his asylum status in the Netherlands. The League of Parents of the Philippines and Liga Independencia Pilipina said sending home season will halt the atrocities by communist terrorist groups. They lamented how season has been enjoying protection there since 1987 while waging war against the Philippine government. They insisted that the 82-year-old season is not a political refugee but a political terrorist. The groups asked the Dutch government to stop coddling Season and his colleagues and let them face various cases in the Philippines. Meantime, they condemned the recent attack of suspected NPA rebels in Labo, Camarines Norte that resulted in the death of policemen who were conducting humanitarian relief operations. Being young and free are probably the best memories everyone can cherish about their childhood. And for the government, protecting and bringing back to children their freedom and rights that are forcibly taken away by communist terrorists is a must. On March 19, authorities held a reintegration program for 13 of the 19 indigenous peoples or IP minors who were rescued in Cebu City in February while alleged ongoing training as New People's Army combatants. The minors actively participated in parlor games and enjoyed swimming with their parents after being taken away from them for a long time. This as they undergo psychosocial intervention which helped them become more open and ready for interaction. The activity took place after the children completed quarantine after one of them tested positive for COVID-19. The minors are currently housed at the Municipal Social Welfare and Development Office, Talaingo, Davao del Norte, and will undergo trainings by the Labor Department and the Technical Skills and Development Authority, or TESDA, before returning to their communities. The Presidential Task Force on Media Security says murder charges have been filed against 3 suspects in connection with the killing of former Pangasinan news reporter and broadcaster Virgilio Maganes. PT-FOM's Executive Director Undersecretary Joel C. Egco announced this after the successful launching of the task force's webinar series on press freedom on March 24. Presidential Communications Operations Office Secretary and PT-FOM's Chair Martin Andanar commended the task force, the National Prosecution Service, and the local police for the quick resolution of the case. For his part, Egco reiterated that no killer of media works will go unpunished under the watch of the task force created by President Rodrigo Duterte. Prosecutors found probable cause against suspects Noe Pelia Ducay, Romar Bustillos, and Juan John Doe for the crime of murder. On November 10, 2020, Maganes was shot dead in Villasis, Pangasinan by 2 men riding in tandem aboard a motorcycle. The suspects were arrested barely a month later. And in sports, the Final Four are all set in the All-Filipino Conference Division of the Professional Chess Association of the Philippines, or PCAP. Laguna and San Juan set up their Northern Division final date, while it is going to be Iloilo versus Camarines in the Southern Division final. The Quezela Knights of Iloilo left no room for error after beating the Toledo Trojans in Set 2 of the South Final. The other quarterfinal pairing saw Camarines downing the Negros Kingsmen. On the other side of the playoff brackets, the Laguna Heroes and the San Juan Predators prevailed in Armageddon matches to set up their own showdown for the North Pennant. After both teams split the 2 regular sets, Laguna booked the first seat in the North Final after sweeping Manila's Indios Bravos. Meanwhile, San Juan needed 2 Armageddon series to knock out the Caloocan Load Mana Knights. The division finals will take place on Wednesday night. Netizens also wished good health for President Rodrigo Duterte as he turned 76 yesterday. In a Facebook comment, user Mirna says she is praying for excellent health, strong determination, and courage in facing all trials. Meanwhile, Karen David from Davao City thanks the President for his sacrifices for the nation and wished that he returns to the city soon. Aside from good health, Ana Gomez Beltran also wished wisdom for the President in making decisions for the country and thanked him for the things he has done for the Filipinos. Senator Christopher Lorenzana also greeted the president on his special day, where he posted Duterte's picture while blowing a simple birthday candle. Go also urged the people to pray and thank the Lord for all the blessings and show compassion to our kababayans amid the crisis. Here are some short snapshots of a decisive and compassionate father of our nation. Again, a happy and blessed birthday, Mr. President, from your PNA family. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. The Department of Trade and Industry assures there is enough food supply amid the implementation of ECQ in NCR+. Only APORs are allowed. The Philippine National Police puts up more checkpoints in Metro Manila. Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana assures that the government is ready to defend the country's sovereignty and marine resources. And IP kids who were forcibly taken by the communist terror group reunite with their families after being rescued by the government. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And yesterday was Palm Sunday, so today, Monday, we officially start Holy Monday. And we are also beginning our enhanced community quarantine so that we would be able to curb our rising cases. So we would advise everyone to please try and be safe, and also let's work together to keep this crisis under control. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.